Welcome back, dear students. Today we have another complex permanent tissue to talk about, and this tissue is known as phloem. So let's start with phloem. Phloem forms the chief food conducting tissue of vascular plants, which is responsible for translocation of organic food material, which is synthesized in leaves and transported to roots, fruits, etc. And like xylem, phloem is composed of four different kinds of cells. The first one is sieve tubes. Sieve tubes are present in angiosperms, while as in case of non-angiospermic plants, they have the sieve cells. We will understand what is the difference between sieve tubes and sieve cells. Second one is companion cells. They are present in angiosperms, while as in case of non-angiospermic plants, they possess the albuminous cells. And the third one is phloem parenchyma, and finally the phloem fibers. We will discuss each and every cell type of phloem. First of all, sieve tubes. And before discussing sieve tubes, we should have some knowledge of sieve elements or sieve tube elements, okay? Because the sieve tubes are themselves constituted of a large number of sieve tube elements which are placed one above the another. जो sieve tubes होते हैं, they are composed of a number of sieve tube elements. So we have to understand what is a sieve tube element. Okay. First of all, sieve element. Sieve elements are the main components of phloem, and this term sieve element, it includes both sieve cell and sieve tube element. First of all, sieve cell. It is a specialized cell type with sieve areas in lateral walls, and these cells do not possess a specialized sieve plate. Okay, here this is, say for example, a sieve cell, and in these cells there are some locations where a number of pores are present, and these locations are known as sieve areas. These cells possess sieve areas on their lateral walls. Okay, they do not possess these sieve areas on their end walls. Okay, this is their main defining feature. And these cells are present in pteridophytes and gymnosperms. Another type of sieve element is known as sieve tube element. These are specialized cell types having sieve areas located on their end walls. Here you can see, this is an individual sieve tube element. They possess the sieve areas, I mean locations where pores are present. They possess these locations on their end walls, and these locations are known as sieve plates. This is the main difference between sieve cells and sieve tube elements. And when a large number of sieve tube elements are placed one above the another, they result in the formation of a long tube-like structure which is known as sieve tube. Okay, so we can now discuss what is a sieve tube. Sieve tubes are composed of elongated cells with perforations at end walls, and these cells are arranged in a longitudinal row to form continuous tube-like structure. Here you can see you have a number of sieve tube elements, and these sieve tube elements are placed one above the other, and they also possess perforations at their end walls to result in the formation of a long tube-like structure which is known as sieve tube. Okay, the perforations on the end walls are much like the sieves and form sieve plate. जो sieve tubes होते हैं, the end walls of sieve tube elements, they are much like the sieves that we have in our kitchens, okay, that we use in our houses. And these sieves possess the small pores, and depending upon whether the end walls possess only one group of pores or many groups of pores, there are two types of sieve plates. One is known as simple sieve plate and second one is known as complex sieve plate. Simple sieve plate possesses single sieve area and complex sieve plate possesses many sieve areas. Say this is the end wall, okay, of a sieve tube element. It possesses a sieve area only here. This is one sieve area. And say we have another type here. This is it is end wall. It possesses one sieve area here, another sieve area here, and another sieve area here. This is known as complex sieve plate. Here you can see in the image. This is the sieve plate, the general structure of sieve plate. A sieve plate possesses pores in it, and depending upon whether you have a single group of pores, a single sieve area, or you have a number of sieve areas. There are two types. I have already told you. Simple, this is the simple one. You have only one group of pores, and you have here a number of groups of pores. This forms the complex sieve plate. Each mature sieve element possesses a thin or thick cellulose wall. There is no lignin deposition. You have to remember this. In sieve tube elements, you do not have the lignin deposition. Instead, the walls are composed of cellulose. And the cytoplasm of sieve tube elements, it occurs in the form of a thin lining enclosing a big central vacuole. Here you can see this is the sieve tube element. It possesses a large vacuole and a thin lining of cytoplasm around this vacuole. The nucleus, plastidus, mitochondria, and endoplasmic reticulum are absent in sieve tube elements. And one of the main important characteristics of sieve tube elements is that they possess some distinct slime bodies which are of proteinaceous nature, and these slime bodies are known as P proteins. They are known as P proteins. The sieve tube elements possess slime bodies of proteinaceous nature which are known as P proteins. Now the functions of sieve tubes. You know that sieve tubes are the syncytes. They have originated, they are formed as a result of placement of sieve tube elements one above another. That is why they are known as syncytes. And these sieve tubes allow translocation of soluble organic substances from leaves which are considered as source to sink like roots. Okay. So the main function of sieve tubes is translocation of organic material, translocation of food from leaves to roots. Another cell type of phloem is companion cells. These are specialized parenchymatous cells. They are living cells which are closely associated with sieve tube elements. Okay, and both these cells, I mean companion cells and sieve tube elements, they are derived from the same mother cell. So these two cells, companion cell and sieve tube element, they are regarded as sister cells because they have originated, they have arisen from the same cell. These cells possess dense cytoplasm and retain nucleus throughout their life. They do not lose their nucleus. Okay, they possess their nucleus throughout their life. And these companion cells, they control almost every function of sieve tube elements. That means any function that the sieve tube elements perform, it is actually done with the help of companion cells. If there is no companion cell attached to the sieve tube element, the sieve tube element won't perform its function. Okay. These cells, companion cells, are present only in angiosperms. They are absent in gymnosperms, where they have the albuminous cells in place of companion cells. Okay, I will repeat this one. The companion cells are present only in angiosperms. They are absent in gymnosperms because gymnosperms possess another cell type which is known as albuminous cell. Okay, and the main difference between the companion cells and the albuminous cells is, while as companion cell and sieve tube element they are derived from the same mother cell, in gymnosperms the sieve cell and the albuminous cell, they are derived from different mother cells. Okay, here you can see this is the companion cell. Okay, this is the companion cell. It possesses all it is cellular organelles. It possesses nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria. Okay, all other cellular organelles, and it is associated with this sieve tube element. Okay, and the wall between the sieve tube element and this companion cell, they possess a large number of plasmodesmata to allow the movement of molecules, to allow the movement of substances between these two cell types. Okay, then the third cell type is known as phloem parenchyma or bast parenchyma. These are elongated thin-walled living cells, and these cells are present in pteridophytes and most of the dicots. You have to remember this point, this is very much important. These cells are present in pteridophytes and most of the dicots, but they are absent in monocots and a few dicots. Okay, you have to remember this point. The phloem parenchyma cells are present in pteridophytes and almost all the dicots, but they are absent in monocots and a few dicots. Monocots में आपको याद रखना है, they do not possess the phloem parenchyma. Okay, they lack this cell type in their phloem. The main function of phloem parenchyma is translocation and storage of food reserves. They help in the radial translocation of food, and they also help in the storage of food material in the form of starch or in some cases fats. Okay, I will make it clear to you. The main function that the phloem parenchyma performs is radial translocation. It is not vertical translocation, because vertical translocation is performed with the help of sieve tubes. And these phloem parenchyma cells sometimes also store resinous, latex, mucilage, and tannins. And finally, the fourth type is phloem fibers, which are also known as bast fibers or libriform fibers. These fibers provide mechanical support to the conducting tissues, to the conducting cells like sieve tubes, okay, sieve tube elements. And these cells are truly sclerenchymatous cells. They are much elongated, unbranched with pointed needle-like apices. Here you can see in the image, this is the phloem fiber. Okay, they are much elongated, having pointed ends, and they possess thick cell wall and lose their protoplasm and nucleus and become dead at maturity. These cells possess a lot of secondary deposition in the form of lignin, and because of this secondary deposition they lose their protoplasm, they lose their nuclei and become dead at maturity. The phloem fibers are absent in primary phloem but are present in the secondary phloem. You have to remember this. The phloem fibers are absent in primary phloem but they are present in the secondary phloem. Okay, and phloem fibers of some plants like jute, flax, and hemp, they are used commercially. Okay, they are used for some commercial purposes. This is all about phloem. I hope you all understand this. Thank you and stay blessed.